So a scene is a moment in time, a particular place and time in your story. And it is one of the building blocks of your story. So that when you're putting us in a scene, the reader is inside you, inside your head, your perceptions, inside this moment in place and time. And we're going to talk a lot about how to ground this and how to set all this up throughout the weekend. What's important to know at the beginning here is that scenes are connected to theme. And so what Brooke was talking about is, okay, if you know what your theme is, let's say it's about mature love, then you're going to have, not every scene is going to be about there. If there's an arc and there's immature love that leads to mature love, you're going to have early scenes where a person doesn't have a clue. I'm just making this up. I haven't read that book. But if you're working on it, there'll be scenes where you show how the person doesn't get it or can't connect. Moments where it doesn't work, right? And then the learning curve of what does this person learn from this relationship? You'll show it in scene. Maybe there's a time when she would have gone off in anger or been really rejecting and has a new process. And you want to show that particular shift. It sounds very important, in the building block of an arc. You want to show that shift in a scene. We're going to talk about what you do when you're not in scene 2 next, but these are scenes. And so you want to look at each of your scenes and see how they're connected to your theme. Some may be connected to a sub-theme. For instance, in my book, Family, Secrets, and Silence, well, some scenes are about secrets, some scenes are mostly just family, some scenes are about silence. And actually, the title of my new book, Song of the Plains, some scenes are about the Great Plains and how beautiful it is and a spiritual connection that I and my family have to it. So as I revised and wrote it, I kept thinking, all right, what of all these different elements are in this scene? You see, it gets as specific as that. And so you want to make sure that your scenes in some form or another have an element of connection to your theme. Let me see if I can not fall down here. All right, there you go. What makes a scene a scene? So this is one of the hardest things to learn. I had a lot of trouble learning about scene myself. And I know that we've worked with people who are, how many of you are from academia, where you're supposed to sum up something in the shortest way possible, right? You're supposed to have 2 sentences that tell an entire story. And so as a therapist and as an academic writer, I knew how to summarize something very quickly. And so my teachers kept saying, I don't feel anything, I don't get it. I'm like, oh, I don't understand, And finally, they showed me some examples as we're going to be doing today. And I said, oh, but that's so much longer. They're like, so? This is a story, you want to get people in it. And I went, oh, I see. Okay, I have to use a whole different way of understanding how to write. So a scene takes place, like we said, at a specific place and time. And the important thing about a scene is that it brings the reader in, including you, the writer, by the way, which we're going to talk more about later, but into the scene through these details: sounds, smells, taste, and texture. So if you say to somebody, I had a delicious orange today, all of us go, oh, orange. I mean, we see the color and we kind of feel it, right, in our bodies. There's a writer named Lisa Cron, C-R-O-N. She's going to be presenting at a National Association of Memoir Writer telesummit in November, which there's a card in your packet. She has a book called Wired for Story, and there's a bunch of these kinds of research books coming out where the neuroscientists are talking about what happens to our bodies and our minds when we're reading. And they're doing a lot of studies, including brain scans, and ways of showing what exactly happens when we're reading something that is connecting to us in our bodies. And what happens is that different parts light up. So if you're summarizing, you say, well, we went to San Francisco and we had a really fun time. Nothing happens. I don't see anything. If you say we went to San Francisco, we went to Fisherman's Wharf, and we had the most delicious crab salad, and then we got on the boat and we went to Alcatraz, and the sea breeze was blowing on us, and I kind of got some sand in my hair and whatever. You're not going to get sand. Anyway.
And the seals were barking.
The seals were barking, thank you. So then we go, oh, we can see and feel what that experience was like, right? And so a lot of you have, from us and other memoir coaches maybe that you've had, we say, what was happening in this moment? What did it feel like? What did it look like? What were the sensations of this moment? And that is what we're talking about. And that takes some doing. You have to stop and think about it. You have to, if you're remembering something, I mean, maybe you don't even remember it, you know, but there's a lot of things you can do to refresh your memory. You can look at photographs. You can do a lot of different things. Like one of the things I did is that I would go back to my hometown and other places in the Midwest just to review what's the wheat like now. Yeah, my memories were 50 years old, 40 years old. And I immersed myself. I got down in the dirt with the wheat in June, and you know, I'm like, okay, this was in my body memory, but then I refreshed my body memory. We can't always do that, but if you can, it's a great idea. So characters, okay, characters and setting. So all of you know that you need to have characters in your memoir. I bet you some of your family are characters, aren't they? And some of you, or any of you, kind of worried about including them? Yes. We'll talk more about how to manage that. But there are other people in the memoir, including you. Guess who you are? You're the protagonist. You're the I. You're the person living these scenes and narrating them. We're going to talk about all about that. Setting, like we've already talked about, where is this happening? So a lot of times people send me a chapter and they'll just start off, you know, and I'm like, where are we? We need to know in the first few couple sentences, where are we? When is it? What is the context of this moment? And it's easy to forget it because you know what it is. It's in your head. You can see it. Why can't we see it? It has to be on the page, right? And then a scene, it has to be there for a reason. And how many millions of scenes have you lived? So many. What do you put in your book? That's a big question, and it continues to be a question until you write the last word on your 10th or 50th draft, whatever it is. And so we're talking this weekend on how to find these moments. Of course, all weekend we're talking about this. But there's a situation, there's a reason to include a scene. It can't be, well, it happened, and then this happened, and then that happened, and you're going to have a memoir that's, 3,000 pages long. And some of you in your first draft may have written an extra long story because you don't know what you need to include. You're just going through all this stuff, and so it's fine. It can be sorted out, so don't panic. But we want to help you be able to revise and re-look if you've written a lot, and if you're just getting started, how you can begin to select these things. And then each scene has an arc. The book has an arc. We'll talk about it. A chapter has an arc with a certain number of scenes, and each scene has a beginning, middle, and end. All right, so we want to give you some tastes of certain writing, so we've selected certain things. We love the book, H is for Hawk. We taught her book last year. And so here's a scene that I just thought was beautiful, and it has an arc to it. And this is about Helen McDonald training a hawk. After her father died, she got involved in this hawk training, but she'd been a falconer most of her life. And here's a moment where something happens. Tonight I take Mabel to Midsummer Common at about 8 o'clock, and we wander right across it past the red pole cattle grazing hawk deep in thistles. Notice the specificity. Stop by the cycle path along the south side of the river and sit ourselves down on a wooden bench under an alder tree. My feet are wet, cold, stinging with thistle scratches. Now the light is thickening into real dusk, and it starts to rain. I need to change it. And with the rain and the dusk comes the smell of autumn. It's raining quite hard now, and the hawk's flat head is beaded with tiny gems of water that glow in the light from the sodium lamps. She balances on the balls of her feet as she does when she's calm. Right next to us, a wooden barrier enclosing a young lime sapling. I plonk her down on the toe of the post, and she jumps, blam, to my fist for food. With the wind blowing the wrong way, with rain in her eyes, with joggers thundering past us, she jumps to me 3 times and then rouses. That means she lifts her wings, sending raindrops and a spray of metallic orange around us both. Brilliant. You don't even know the book if you haven't read it, but isn't that an amazing scene? You know, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And notice how many specifics. She doesn't say a tree. She talks about what kind of tree. And then at the end, you know, when she has the orange raindrop, you know, it's like, whoa! You know, I just feel like it's an amazing bit of writing. And we want to inspire you to remember these details. So you're going to get the slides here, so you don't have to take notes. But in every scene that you write, now I actually had a list of what goes in a scene because I was trying to learn from academic writing over to story writing, and I would check my checklist every time. I'd say, where is it? What is happening? Why is it included? Have I included? You can't include every sensual detail in every scene, but I would go, all right, have I done this? And you probably need to have a little checklist. Maybe this slide will go up by your computer. And so you want to have vivid descriptions like Helen did, textures, sounds, smell and taste. And you'll feel it in your own body. And the reason that's important and sometimes difficult, which we will discuss, is that you need to feel it so you can bring it alive. If you're not feeling it, it's going to be dead to the reader too. And that's why it's hard to write memoir. You have to be so engaged, you know, when you need to write and then you need to rest.